Hey everyone, we've spent time with several different AMD Ryzen 4000 laptops lately, and this one right here, the ROG Zephyrus G15 from Asus, is one of the more balanced products available right now with this new AMD hardware. It's not as well made or as compact as the Zephyrus G14, and also not as powerful as the tough gaming A15s, but it has one major advantage over all the other options, and that's a good quality display, which is otherwise the main culprit of all the other AMD notebooks out there, at least for now. But don't get hasty. Asus actually offers two screen options for the G15, one with a 144Hz refresh rate and poorer brightness, colors and response times, and one with a 240Hz refresh rate, 3 milliseconds response, 300 plus nits of brightness and 100% sRGB coverage. This latter option is what we have on this unit here and the one that makes all the difference. This aside, our G15 is based on a Ryzen 7 4800HS processor with 32GB of RAM, 512GB of SSD storage and an Nvidia GTX 1660 Ti graphics chip. This is a max-Q 60W version and not the full power model available on the TUF A15 and other full-size gaming laptops, so if the performance in games is what you're primarily interested in, this G15 might not be the one for you. It's still a capable product nonetheless, mostly thanks to the powerful and efficient AMD HS hardware. Just like with all their other laptops, Asus offers several power profiles for this one, from silent, meant for light use and video, up to turbo for gaming and demanding loads. The G15 runs coolly and quietly with daily use and multitasking, while lasting for a fair while on a charge thanks to the 76Wh battery inside, as well as the efficient AMD implementation. Expect around 3 to 4 hours of multitasking and 5 to 7 hours of video. And then this ramps up when switched on turbo, increasing the CPU's power allocation and overclocking the GPU past its stock settings. We've run a couple of different tests on this unit on this turbo mode, from the standard synthetic benchmarks like Cinebench or Geekbench to Blender SpecView Per for Handbrake, which simulate real-life work with professional applications and video encoding. We've also ran the 3D Mark tests both for the CPU and GPU and gather all our results in these graphs. Feel free to pause to see how the G15 stacks against the existing AMD and Intel-based competition, and make sure to head over to the written article on the site for the more in-depth performance analysis and tests. I've added the link for you in the description. It's also important to note that the G15 does a good job at maintaining top performance in longer duration loads. As illustrated by our Cinebench loop test, the processor runs at around 42W for the first 8 to 10 runs, and only then it drops towards its design 35W limit. Even at 35W, this is no match for the Intel Core i7s out there, and only some of the i9 configurations can beat it in multi-threaded loads, but those are available in higher tier and much more expensive notebooks. Now, as far as gaming goes, the 60W GTX 1660 Ti inside this laptop is good enough for Full HD gaming with high settings. Asus also offers an RTX 2060 65W GPU for this laptop, and you can see how the two compare in terms of performance in these charts, right next to the full power GTX 1660 Ti and RTX 2060 available in the Asus TUF A15 models. Again, pause to look at the results closely, and make sure to get dual channel RAM on your laptop, it makes a lot of difference in games. Okay, so while the Zephyrus G15 performs well in most titles, thermals are its major culprit. The cooling module seems alright for the hardware on this laptop with 3 heat pipes and 2 fans, but the CPU averages temperatures of 90 to 95 degrees in most games, with the GPU averaging 78 to 83 degrees, both on the turbo profile, with the fans ramping up to about 6500 RPM and 48 to 49 dB at head level. Some of this heat also spreads onto the exterior chassis, with certain parts reaching temperatures in the very high 50s, both on the keyboard surface and on the back. Palm rest, WSD keys and arrows stay cool though, as the thermal module is designed to draw air from between the keys to help cool these areas. Now, to some extent, I was expecting the G15 to run hot given its slimmer chassis, but Asus also made some weird design choices on the bottom of this laptop. Fresh air is drawn in from the bottom and the interior and pushed out through the back edge, but the intake grills on the actual fans are covered with a plastic film in order to channel the airflow over the heat pipes and the components. There's no way to take out those covers without breaking these plastic pins that keep them in place, thus avoiding warranty. I couldn't take them out and test the impact on this unit, but other reviews mention a 7 to 10 degrees decrease in CPU and GPU temperatures once that's done, as well as a slight increase in performance. From what I understand, Asus claimed that channeling the air this way is required to cool other components on the motherboard and keep the keyboard at lower temperatures, but I'm not comfortable with the hardware running at this sort of high temperatures long term, especially when that hardware is merely a max-Q mid-range GPU. That's why both the smaller Zephyrus G14 and the full-size TUF A15 models make more sense for me than this G15, if the gaming experience is important for you, each for different reasons. But then there's the high-quality 240Hz screen available with the G15, unmatched by any of the screen options on the other series, which puts you as a potential buyer in a tough situation. However, there are also a few other things you should consider before deciding on the Zephyrus G15 though. For starters, there's the design and build quality. This is a compact and lightweight 15-inch laptop at a little above 2 kilos. Brushed black metal is used for the lid cover with a black and non-lit ROG logo, while the interior and the bottom are made of plastic. Overall, it looks neat and professional with muted branding and no annoying lights, but the status LEDs and the power button are still always lit and placed beneath the screen. The build quality is okay as well, with little flags in both the lid and the chassis, and friendly edges and corners. However, both the lid and the interior show smudges and finger oil, unlike few other laptops I've tested recently. This aside, I should also mention the I/O placement. Most of the important ports are on the left edge, but towards the middle, in order to accommodate the thermal design on the back. And that means that the power plug and the LAN and HDMI cables would get in your way if you decide to use them. The left only includes USB slots and leaves that area free for your mouse. This laptop lacks Thunderbolt 3 support or a card reader, but the USB-C port allows charging if you don't want to bring along your included power brick. There's also no finger sensor or IR camera. In fact, there's no camera at all, much like on the entire Zephyrus lineup, but there are some microphones placed beneath the screen. As a result, the screen gets small bezels around the side and top and a fairly hefty chin down beneath, but I'm totally fine with it as it pushes it into a more ergonomic position and away from the hot running chassis. The hinges are pretty good as well, allowing to easily lift up the screen with a single hand and adjust it to the back to about 145 degrees. Inputs on the other hand are one area where the Zephyrus G15 does not excel. The layout is fine with full-size chiclet keys, smaller arrows and an extra functions column at the right, as well as dedicated volume keys on the top left side. However, typing on this keyboard feels somewhat shallow and imprecise, and not like on the higher tier Zephyrus models. Even the G14 is a much nicer typer, at least for me, although the keyboards on the two look very similar on a first glance. This keyboard also lacks RGB lighting and only gets white LEDs. They're fairly bright and the writing on each key is easily visible on this black and white implementation, but the light creeps out quite annoyingly from underneath some of the keycaps. As for the clickpad, it works fine with daily use, but it's a rather small plastic surface with clunky clicks, so definitely not something to praise on. Nor are the speakers for that matter. There's a set of them firing through cuts at the bottom and bouncing sound off the table, and they can get fairly loud. However, you'll most likely have to keep them at around 60 to 70% of their volume or lower, as otherwise they transmit a lot of vibrations into the plastic chassis. Okay, so who's this G15 for then? Well, if you're primarily looking at performance in multi-threaded applications and games, I'd go with the tough gaming A15's models instead. Just make sure to get the 140Hz screen model and be aware of the slow response time that can translate into ghosting in fast-paced games. At the same time, if you're after a more premium and more portable notebook, the Zephyrus G14 offers similar hardware specs in a superior chassis, with slightly better thermals and nicer inputs. That leaves the G15 somewhere in between these two as an all-round portable 15-inch laptop. It performs admirably in demanding loads and pairs the hardware with a punchy and fast screen, a great option for daily use and gaming, and even a fine one for color-accurate work. However, the smudgy plastic build, the shallow keyboard, the Max-Q GPU options, combined with the thermal design and those very high internal temperatures, this all eat into its potential, both as a gaming ultra-portable and as a multitasker. Right now, the Zephyrus G15 goes for $30.99 in the US for the RTX 2060 Max-Q version with a 240Hz screen, or $11.99 for the GTX 1660 Ti with a poorer 144Hz display. At the same time, roughly $14.50 can get you a 2019 Zephyrus M with a Core i7 processor, full-power GTX 1660 Ti graphics, better thermals, a metallic chassis, and a much nicer RGB keyboard, which make that M a much better option in this price range. Of course, the configurations and pricing vary a lot between regions, so there's a chance the G15 could be a better buy in your area. However, as of right now, I feel that the Zephyrus G15 needs to drop in price in order to compensate for its quirks. And if you absolutely need an AMD-based notebook, there's just better value with the other Asus options, such as the compact Zephyrus G14 and the full-size and much more affordable tough A15, despite their own share of flaws. Anyway, this pretty much wraps up our review of the 2020 Asus ROG Zephyrus G15, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on the product and whether you agree or disagree with mine. Get in touch in the comment section, hit that thumbs up button if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe to our channel to get notified when we publish something new. Catch you later.